There he is. The moment of truth. Thumbs up, he's backing in. It's a good sign. How's it look? The park job. A little off, but you know what? He's backing in. That's all that counts. We are live! But we are also on tape. We are deep down in the bowels of Lee's music. Chris Foulds back in the hot seat. Magic Mike, Bonnie at the controls, trying to make us look good. It's episode 38 of Kamloops last week. Foldsy, how you doing?
Good. Good.
Canada Soccer last night.
Yes, we watched the game. I watched the game at my place. I guess you watched it at your place. Yeah, disappointing. All the diving is just so, that's the problem with soccer. Soccer is a great sport, as you know. But especially when you get down South America, I know this is Central America, and you get to Italy, just the diving, that red card, I mean, sure, yeah, he bumped into him. But the Costa Rican should have got a card, too, for embellishing it. They should go both ways. Yeah.
Well, it's probably the number one reason why the traditional North American sports fan does not want to watch soccer. You get people diving around. We go on about it year after year, flailing like fish. It's embarrassing for the sport. It's embarrassing for their families.
It's cheating. It's just stupid.
But the Canadian guy should not have nudged him. He was on a yellow card already.
No. The Costa Rican player was very smart because he knew he had him. He was running hot, the Canadian, and that's what you do. So tactically, it was smart play. It's just the rules of soccer. The referee should say, "Get up! Don't be such a wimp. Get up! Act like a hockey player."
What did you
keep going here?
The crowd was insane there. Like they switched over TSN to from a basketball broadcast, the end of one, to the Canadian anthem being sung, and the shrieking and shrill shrieking from the fans. Like you couldn't hear anything, and they went on the whole game.
And that Costa Rican national anthem, that had that was pretty good. It sounded like the old Soviet type of anthem. Very, very robust. But back when Canada went down and tried to qualify all the years, we've done stories with people who've been on the team, and they talk about it. Honduras is especially bad. El Salvador, Costa Rica is not as bad because they're a little more civilized. But the fans are so intense in those countries. They'll throw bags of urine. They'll do everything to try to. And the night before in the hotel, they'll be outside with cars and doing a convoy and all that kind of stuff.
I thought you were about to go on about the glory days of '86. One of my buddies actually was ripping you behind your back about how everything's just better in the past with you.
Not everything's better in the past, but if you think about it, though, Canada's going to qualify. They're going to either tie or beat Jamaica on Sunday, and they're in regardless. So it doesn't matter whether they finish first, second, or third. But my only point from there, and you can tell your buddy this, is that there's right now every team in the world gets into the World Cup. Back then, 24 got in, and it was a much more impressive feat in '86.
Although soccer, though, you're always on team, about the glory days of Abbotsford.
Well, '94 was the greatest year of all time, as we know.
Jenna Kansky, grade 7 student at Juniper Ridge. She made the school's mascot, Juniper the Jaguar. They won the City Girls title. Very cool story.
Very cool school.
Kamloops lawyer Bill Sundhu's coming on.
Yes, he's going to talk about war crime aspect of what's happening in the invasion of Ukraine and how and why and if Russia is committing war crimes or other crimes, and whether it can ever get to the International Court of Crime in The Hague.
And Craig Button, one of the busiest men in sports media in Canada, in the world, he joins us on our show.
Love Craig Button.
A live guest. Yep. Mike Miltimore, chain of office. What's going on?
Well, clearly, the chain of office meant something to Mayor Christian, and it's pretty fantastic, right? So I equate that to being like the mayor's version of a guitar that's being passed down or an instrument that's being passed down. When it was stolen, that sucks. I thought about my guitars and I thought, man, it would be great if we could just try to get this back. This is something that's important. So I offered a free Riversong guitar to anybody that would, no questions asked, bring it back, throw it through my mail slot at the Lee's Music or whatever needs to be done.
You better turn off your audio contraption that scares people away.
Well, that's on the other side of the building. So, let's just get it back.
Do we have a beat on what might happen to this, or is that?
Well, there's a rumor. We're looking into it, and we can't confirm it. We're trying to get someone at the city's bylaws department, the community services department, to confirm or deny or say we don't know. But we've heard through various sources that this mayor's chain of office was indeed located at a homeless encampment along the river and was accidentally thrown out with everything because the person who was cleaning up probably didn't know that it was the mayor's chain of office. That's just the rumor. We heard it from a few different people. We're trying to find out if it's true or not. We're not sure. This chain was, I think, created when Terry Lake was mayor back in 2005, I believe. It's a neat chain of office for sure.
I heard another rumor.
What's that?
The Hamburglar. The Hamburglar took it. Okay.
Ba-ba-ba-ba.
Thank you, Mike. And the only food chain that I hang with is McDonald's. And if you want to steal 2 free Big Macs from us, share this episode on Facebook. But for now, let's take a tour of New Leaf Produce Market. What is it that we know? There it is, another fresh stock on a Wednesday morning at New Leaf Produce Market. But what is it that we know about Christopher Foulds, Kamloops Last Week co-host? Well, we know this. Abbotsford palate, which means his idea of a big night out, well, you're going to the Highwayman or maybe down the road to Aldergrove to the Alder Inn. But what he does know and always has and always will is berries, because right there in his own backyard, it's Neufeld Farms. And Neufeld Farms is in cahoots with New Leaf Produce Market.
Help my goodness, Steve. Are these strawberries ever good?
You're quiet today, Herman. Want some corn?
Have a bite, Herm.
This month, March at New Leaf Produce Market, get those frozen berries on special. Come on down. Get them while you can. Because they're going fast. Anna Muzika, right there, she's become kind of a beacon of support for the Ukrainian effort in Kamloops. She's leading, along with the TRU Wolfpack, a 44-kilometer run on April 1st. Fundraising effort again for Ukraine. Just want to get your thoughts in general on Ukraine. What's the latest there and your thoughts on it?
Well, the latest, as we know, is it seems like it's not stagnating, but it's the same thing every day. We hear it's Russia bombing buildings into the last Stone Age. It's sad. There was news today on March 25th that the casualty count in that theater that was bombed is 300 now. I think Kiev has exactly half the population it did before the invasion. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
And what gets me is when you have all the diplomatic talk in the UN saying, well, we should exclude Biden saying we should exclude Russia from the favored nations or the G7, and they're still in the Security Council. It's just so bizarre that they're killing people, they're invading a country, and they're still talking in this diplomatic stuff in the UN, and they're having dinner and talking about this stuff, and it's just bizarre to the layman.
You can go through Twitter and within 2 minutes get all these different kind of emotional feelings. You've got like emboldened soldiers posting videos of taking over Russian tanks. You go, okay, that's good, and then you see, maybe there's political talks going on, but behind the scenes that are advancing between Russia and Ukraine. I think that's BS. So, the talks, do you think Putin is actually legitimately in good faith, letting his politicians talk in good faith, or it's just a smokescreen?
From the people I follow, the experts, the reporters, and the analysts they talk to, and the Guardian, New York Times, and everything, they say he wants Ukraine.
Yeah.
He wants to be a modern day czar.
Yeah.
Or even a hybrid of the Tsar and the Soviet Empire.
Yeah.
So I don't know what those talks are going to do. And the experts that I see talking to the CBC and all the other news agencies say the same thing. And again, we're back to what do you do? You call his bluff on nuclear war, or don't you? Yeah. And then this morning we got that lunatic in North Korea. Now he's
marching out with his sunglasses on.
He's coming. I guess he doesn't get enough press, and now he's launching a ballistic missile.
He's Vince McMahoning out with the missile.
You see that? He's out there, and now he's saying that they've just launched the longest range missile ever because he's ready for a prolonged. Aggressive, not war, but standoff with the United States. So this whole world's nuts, man.
Yeah. Well, the Ukraine cast on BBC I've been listening to, it's amazing. One of the hosts there has a sister, his aunt, his mom and the mom's sister. And the mom's sister is severely handicapped, can't do anything, can't go to the washroom, anything. They fleed their hometown in Ukraine. They're trying to get out of the country. They can't, and they're getting calls from the mom, and just hearing a first person account of what's going on. Convoys being shot at that clearly have marked, handicap, people, and still just getting riddled with bullets.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's been at least 2, maybe more journalists killed, and both of them were killed with big press jackets, helmets, and they were in a car that was clearly marked press, and they were shot at and killed by the Russians. That theater that we just talked about, which they had in large letters on the ground next to it, so anyone up in the air could see. There's children here. It's just brutal.
We've got a great guest who's going to talk more about this in Above the Folds. Bill Sundhu. This segment brought to you by McDonald's.
Yeah, so I'm just on my way to Sycamoose here, but before I go, I wanted to shop local. So I came to McDonald's, and
Welcome.
Yes, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well. You guys do such a good job You do such a great job at this McDonald's. I just want you to know that first of all.
Thank you. What can I get for you today?
I'd like a large coffee, please, with 3 cream. That's it.
Really? No fries or bacon for you today?
No, thank you. Just the coffee.
217 at the fast window, please.
Okay, great job. Proud of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know you're jealous. Just relax. I brought your mug, Herman. Just take it easy, pal.
Your shirt.
Oh, yeah, that was a bonehead move.
I'm trying to be professional here, but you're really making it.
Embarrassing the whole team here. You gonna join us here, Chris, for the show we're doing?
Yeah, just got to see something here. Okay, yeah, 88, 92. Okay, good.
Words with Friends.
Yep. Wordle.
Wordle.
Oh, great game.
Bill Sundhu.
This is Bill Sundhu. He is a very well-known lawyer who specializes in human rights law. He's a former judge, and he is a multiple candidate for the NDP in this riding federally. He's a former president of the NDP Association here. His big passion is human rights. From a legal perspective, he has a master's from Oxford University, many other accolades, and he's also one of the counsel chosen to practice on the International Crime Court in The Hague, Netherlands, and they try cases against various people out of conflict. They can't try cases against countries, but people who commit war crimes, like Milosevic in Yugoslavia. The majority have been African, warlords, and then they try them. They sentence them, and it's an effort of a number of countries to bring justice from a neutral point of view. And that's what he's involved in.
You talked to him for about 20 minutes. We're going to post the whole clip on YouTube, but we narrowed it down in this clip coming up, just strictly talking about the war crime side of it and Putin and the Ukraine. So we'll take a look at that right now.
The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has issued a statement saying, we've opened a file, we're going to investigate war crimes, crimes against humanity, and possibly genocide in relation to the Ukraine. Now, war crimes, in my view, clearly there is sufficient basis to likely prosecute war crimes when we have attacks on things like schools, hospitals, civilian populations, deprivations of the necessities of life like medical care and so forth. Then I think it's very clear that the elements of war crimes can be met. The International Criminal Court looks at leaders and leadership responsibilities, commanders of military, political leaders. And so it can open investigation. It can have secret indictments or open indictments. And then the issue is to apprehend those persons. That will always be a challenge. It's been a challenge for the court to arrest people since 2002. It doesn't have a police force. It doesn't have a military. So it relies on the cooperation of other parties. And so the question is, would somebody like Putin or Russian generals, if they were indicted, travel outside of the country? Clearly, they'd be isolated. Yeah. The world opinion would be adverse to them. And long-term down the road, one would have to contemplate if other Russians felt that that was continuing to harm their country, including the basis of the sanctions and isolation, whether they should turn these people over and have effectively kind of coup.
When people are brought to are convicted in international court, and they're sentenced, where are they held?
So there's no death penalty. It's a life sentence, and it seeks the cooperation of other states to house them in prison. So countries like Belgium and Germany, or even the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has had people prosecuted from its state, then had them turned over on the clear representation that they will house them in a prison. And so it seeks the cooperation of other states, not just to arrest people, but in investigations, but also to imprison them. I would assume that in this case, if prosecutions were brought out of the Ukraine, they would likely end up at The Hague. Russia wouldn't be able to handle it. And then I think Ukraine might just sort of say, yeah, just for legitimacy, so that we're not accused of tainting and bias, will hand it to you.
That makes sense because they'd be in a conflict because they're the victims, right? If Putin's invading Ukraine on his own argument, and he doesn't care what people think about it. He's saying it's justified. Can he be found guilty in absentia?
I would see real problems for that. I would think they would want him in the seat for the optics of it, for the demonstration of justice, having that human face in the courtroom, right? It's not demons that commit these with horns coming out of their heads. They're human beings that can look like our neighbor.
What do you think about the effectiveness of that court and how effective it can be in this situation with Putin?
Well, it can always be more effective, but the fact that even it's only been around, I think Bill says, since 2003 in its current form, and there's some signatories who are not part of it. Like the United States is not part of this thing, because if they were, then maybe Bush and Cheney, and in the past Kissinger, would be brought up on charges, because the United States has committed lots of regime changes, has assassinated people, from Chile to they installed the Shah of Iran in '53. The invasion of Iraq could be considered a war crime in 2003. So they're not part of this deal, nor is Russia. So I asked him in the interview, well, how do you charge and try to convict a leader of a country that doesn't even recognize your court? And he talks about that, and he said it's hard to do that. It's very hard to do that.
It's impossible, though,
Yeah.
right? In what world is Putin going to march out of Russia? Okay,
Yeah, I know.
put the cuffs on, try me, and I'll spend the rest of my life in The Hague.
Yeah, well, they have got some high-profile leaders during the Yugoslavian Civil War, and they brought them there. And Milosevic died while waiting trial. The other guy, I can't remember his name, great hair. Anyway, he's sentenced to life in prison there. And
did somebody have to turn on? Like, was there a coup and they brought him forth?
Well, some people within will arrest him and send him there. And when the country fell apart in Yugoslavia, that's how they were found. Is they were captured by their own and then turned over.
Yeah, I heard about sparking a coup in Russia and how that might happen, targeting the oligarchs. But they tried that where Obama did in 2014, right? And it's very hard to do. Like, it sounds, okay, target the oligarchs, their wallets, so they can't do business overseas. But that's it didn't work.
Well, they're doing it now again. They've Chelsea, Abramovich lost to the football club. They're losing all their,
I think in the F1
yachts.
sponsors too, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're doing that incrementally for all the people who got rich after the fall of communism, and they got rich likely by illegal means.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I just think there's ways around that. Okay, we lost our F1 sponsorship. They can just go about making their deals overseas in other ways, more clandestinely, and still make their money, and that's not going to...
They can, and they probably will, but the more that the chokehold gets on there's fewer avenues for them to go.
So do you think that's how this is going to... The best route forward for this ending is to do it that way with the sanctions and hammering the oligarchs? Or do you have to kill the guy? Is that the best way to do it?
I think there's what, 3 options, right? You keep doing the sanctions until they get so desperate economically that the people turn against them, or they'd say, okay, enough's enough, we'll get out of Ukraine. The second thing is you install the no-fly zone, and then you start a war with Putin. And where does that lead us?
Yeah.
Or the third thing is, you infiltrate, or you try to get people in there to get his people to kill him. The states have done it before. They're experts at it.
Let's get that going. That's the #1 way to do it.
Yep.
Get some heroic Navy SEAL in there.
That's get someone in there. They could find Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
Surely they have someone in the Kremlin who doesn't like this psycho.
Use a spy and turn him and come on, let's go. That's the best way to do it.
The guy can barely skate. I'm sure you can get to him. Jesus, I tell you, man, he's not nuts. I think he's just a very bad person. That's all.
Okay, like I said, you can watch that full interview with Bill Sundhu on YouTube. And for now, you can watch the Last Week Click.
The #1 news story right now in Kamloops is shaping up to be a grisly murder mystery. March 11th, a TRU professor, Mr. Mohd Abdullah, went missing. He was reported missing when he didn't show up to work on Monday, March 14th. And then on March 17th, police were called to a cul-de-sac street, Monterey Place, up in Dufferin, where a deceased person had been found inside a vehicle outside a home there. And this week, we've had confirmation following the autopsy that was, in fact, Mr. Abdullah, who was found deceased in a vehicle. And police are now investigating this suspicious death as a homicide. Alongside that, police have already arrested and charged a local lawyer, Mr. Rogelio Butch Bagaboyu with interference with a dead body for allegedly placing Mr. Abdullah's remains in a plastic bin. No one's been charged yet in relation to this murder, but there is one person in custody for this interference charge, and police continue to investigate the homicide. They are asking the public for some assistance. They'd like to hear from anybody who knows about Mr. Abdullah's whereabouts this month, and they would also like to speak with anybody who can help them track a white GMC budget rental van that was found outside the home in Dufferin. So anyone with information is asked to call 250-828-3000. That's all I got for you guys for now. Back to the studio.
I don't want to kind of sensationalize it, but it's like a Dateline episode or something.
It's bizarre. It's a Netflix documentary waiting to be made. It's bizarre so far. But he hasn't been charged with murder, but he's been charged with interfering with Mo's body. Is there a connection between the two? How did this come to it? That's all in the publication ban details, which once they come out will be pretty bizarre.
When does that happen?
That, if it happens, it'll be during trial. If it goes to trial, and if more charges are laid in connection to this case and it goes to trial, once it goes before a jury or a judge and they start talking about that aspect in court, that's when we can report on it.
Okay, so we'll talk more about that then. Liberal NDP agreement. What's going on?
Yeah,
here?
that made big news this past week, and it's a big deal. It's what it does is the good thing is it offers stability for politics in Canada for at least until 2025. We've had an election every year and a half for the last since 2015 to now. We've had 3 elections, right? And that's what you get when you have a minority government. Is the government often falls because they can't agree on bills and stuff like that. Anyway, this week Justin Trudeau, leader of the Liberals and the Prime Minister, made a deal with Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, in which the NDP will support them on all confidence votes that would otherwise fell a government. So they'll vote with the government on supply management bills, on financial bills, so the government can't fall, and it'll be in place until 2025 at least, when the next election's scheduled. In exchange for that support to prop up the government so we don't have an election every year, the Liberals have agreed to the NDP's demands that they institute or start working on a national dental care program like we have with healthcare, and an expansion of pharmacare, which is the prescription. And when you go get, it's very expensive, and pharmacare helps people who have are financially not able to afford their prescriptions. They want to expand that, and the NDP wants dental care to be included in the healthcare, which is a lot of money. It's a big deal. So the Liberals said, okay, we'll work on that if you vote with us all the time on the issues that otherwise would force us to collapse as a government. The Conservatives don't like this because they're not part of the deal, and they know now that they have a leadership race going on right now. And I think in September they select a new leader. They're not on board with this because they know, okay, we won't be able to gain power or a chance at it until 3 more years, and they call it a power grab, and they say it's not right, but they're wrong. It's the way Westminster style of democracy works. This is exactly how it works. This is how you do it. You work out a deal so that the government, so the voters aren't going and wasting $600 million every 18 months for an election.
So you're definitely in favor of it. We know that now.
No, I'm not. No,
you're happy with the process.
I don't vote. I haven't voted since '92. I don't think reporters should vote. So I have no skin in the game.
I know.
But
you are all about the process.
Well, I'm not in favor or against it. What pisses me off is when people say it's a power grab, it's this, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
No.
Like Pierre Poilievre, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's never had a job, and he sits there and says, "Oh, it's a power grab, and this is not right." Well, no, it's right. It's exactly right. Whether it's right or wrong.
See why he'd be pissed off. I mean, they're kind of painted into a corner.
I'd be pissed off if I was a conservative, but I wouldn't say this is wrong because this is exactly how the process works. This is the Westminster style democracy.
He doesn't understand. He's busy running. He's busy running for Prime Minister.
He's busy getting his pension and never working a day in his life.
Okay, RIH, the Phil and Jenny Gillardy Tower.
Yes.
Construction's complete. I think there's some other RIH news going on as well, or budget, hospital budget.
Oh, yeah. So Adrian Dix, the health minister for BC, was in town on March 24th, and he was there to say, hey, the construction's done, and the hospital expansion, 9-story tower, will open as scheduled and on budget, $417 million on mid-July. And so it was a rah-rah big thing.
And
right?
what does this do for us in the city?
Well, it does nothing unless you can put staff in there, and we have a big staffing problem, not the least of which is the 900 people lost their jobs because they didn't get vaccinated, but that's something they have to fill. But before that, we've had a shortage of nurses. We've written about ad nauseum, trouble getting specialists here, doctors, blah, blah, blah. You can't get a doctor. No one has a doctor.
I don't have a doctor.
So that's the
We
problem.
have no walk-in clinics in the city.
No,
apparently.
nothing.
None.
No, there's none. So the problem is
Toenail fell off.
Your toenail?
Yeah,
fell?
toenail
Really?
fell off.
Yeah, that's a
Fungus.
sign. Really, fungus?
Yeah,
You got
it's
the
growing
spray.
back.
You got the spray.
I got to go spray now.
Yeah, well, you
Anyway.
got to eat the pill. But so the tower's up, and it's great, and it's got really really nice rooms, single patient rooms, a lot of windows. But the problem is, unless you can, and that's what we had the doctor on before, and he said
Scott Hughes,
and he even said unless you can have the best equipment in the world and the nicest rooms, if you don't have a nurse, if you don't have an orderly, if you don't have a receptionist, a clerk, a doctor, what good is it? So they got to address that. But the point is, it's good that it's there. It's a $500 million building. Remember, it was initiated by the BC Liberals, by Terry Lake, and by I think Todd Stone. So let's give them kudos for that.
Yeah. It's a step in the right direction for morale. I heard Scott on the radio the other day talking about morale and how it needs to get way better over the next couple of years. It's near the top of the list of things that need to change around there. So at least it's a positive
If they can
step.
I think the biggest issue, not just at RH, but across Canada, is staffing. If you need enough people to care for the people, because we're all getting older, we're an aging population, but if you don't have the people, the buildings don't matter.
Yeah,
but
I think Pierre Poilievre deserves some credit for this too. I mean, he probably had a hand in it.
he probably. I think right now he's probably writing up, congratulations to myself. No.
Yeah. Okay, I bet you Craig Button knows Tom Ghilardi, and Craig's on right now. This guy's on time, and Craig is no doubt a tower among hockey media in this country. Let's have a chat with him right now. In Last Week, This Week. Okay, Craig Button, I texted you on Wednesday. It's got to be one of the busiest days of the year for you. Within 10 minutes, you say, absolutely sure, I'll do your show. So why on earth would you agree to do our little show here in Kamloops?
Well, maybe the question should be, why wouldn't I? I mean, you got a passionate hockey base there. You got a long-standing history of success in Kamloops. And, I say this, and I said this to a number of people that I ran across at the CHL Prospects game, is that the fans are the ones that, are an integral part of the sport, the emotion they bring, the passion they bring. And without the fans, we would be nowhere. So, you're delivering to the fans, and any way I can try to help, and with the CHL across the country, you can always count on it.
I got a question for you before we talk hockey. I heard Don Taylor the other day talking about one time he was in a media scrum and he got ripped publicly by Rick Lee, who was a coach at the time. Have you ever been just ripped by a coach, either in public or over the phone, that you can share with us? Any stories like that?
Well, there's this neat little thing called social media now where you don't have to go very far to get ripped or to see where you got ripped. So it's always interesting again, it's the passion of the fans. I always say, you can disagree with me. You can not like what I say and everything. If you're respectful and, and you take a position, and sometimes there's times you go, yeah, you know what, that's a good point. Maybe I didn't express it as well as I could have. Maybe I could have done a better job. Just as long as it's not personal and it's not vulgar, I got no problem with disagreement or debate. And to answer your question, oh yeah, for sure. I think that I always say to people, if you have an issue, you have my phone number, phone me, and we can talk it out. And when you're providing critical analysis, I'm a huge believer that as long as it's not personal in nature, doesn't mean that people have to agree with you. But if you could frame things a little bit differently, if it's not something that was taken very well, or perhaps the context was taken in a way that you didn't intend, I have no problem with hearing it back. And sometimes it's a little more heated than at other times, but I think through dialogue and then trying to clear away any misconceptions, you come out on the other side much better.
Go ahead.
Craig, you started your managerial career with the great old Minnesota North Stars franchise. They had that great logo, and Lou Nanning and Bobby Smith, and the whole history of them. And you moved with them to Dallas. So they went from the North Stars to Dallas. I still think they should have called them the Lone Stars. Great name, better than just Stars. But anyway, what was it like going from probably the #1 hockey state in America, Minnesota, to Dallas. I know they had the Blackhawks in the old CHL back in the time, but what was the culture change like? And what was it like just to go from, Bloomington, St. Paul to Dallas?
It was really interesting. We had Bob Gainey, who was our general manager and coach. Bob has such a fantastic way with people. And you may recall in our early days in Dallas, we gave away water bottles before the game, and there was a dispute in the game with the referees, and about 10,000 plus water bottles ended up on the ice. And it showed across the country. ESPN had it, and it was a big to-do. Well, we had these shared offices with everybody. So Bob was the coach. So 2 days later, we were having a puck giveaway. So Bob starts wearing a helmet with a cage around the office. Well, I mean, it comes pretty obvious. Somebody at some point in time has to ask Bob what's going on. And Bob said, well, we're giving away those pucks before the game on Thursday. Pucks are a lot more dangerous than water bottles. I just want to get comfortable wearing this as I go to coach. And they go, what do you mean? He goes, and it was his way of just saying, hey, listen, you know what? We want to do giveaways and everything, but maybe we should give the pucks away at the end of the game as people are exiting the building, not entering the building. Yeah. But it was that type of thing, and Bob had that manner that just said, hey, you know what? He didn't say, what are you thinking about, right? He kind of poked a little bit of fun at it, had a little fun at his expense. One of the things we did, too, there, and it was Bob's idea as well, I don't know if it was every 6-8 months or something like that, we'd all meet, everybody. And there's probably 30 people from all different aspects of the organization. And Bob would start it off by talking about what's the dumbest thing or what's the biggest mistake we've made in the last period of time, whatever it was, and what did we learn from it? And it was Bob's way of just saying, hey, we're all in this together, we're all learning, we make mistakes, and we're all gonna grow together. Ultimately, the finish to this is in 1999 when we won the Stanley Cup, I can tell you this, every single person that was part of that organization and an important part of that organization, from the players, the coaches, the hockey, to every other area, were all in Buffalo together in that dressing room celebrating the Stanley Cup because everybody was a huge part of it.
You probably know this, but Bob's son Steve lives here in Kamloops. He actually coached the Junior B team in town for a few years. Or did you know that?
I did know that.
Of course you did.
I was in Dallas, and we drafted Stephen from Kamloops. I mean, Stephen had gone up from Texas to play up in Kamloops. And, Ken Hitchcock was our coach, was in our system at the time, coaching in Kalamazoo, and then ultimately became the head coach of that Stanley Cup winning team. So, Stephen also had the benefit of some guidance, from Ken and his circle in the Western Hockey League. And it's always interesting that here's Stephen that really had no Western roots whatsoever to speak of. And here he is, rooted right into Kamloops.
You're an encyclopedia, Craig, so you probably knew that this year was the first time since 2002 that 3 Blazers were involved in the top prospects game. That was Eric Christensen, Scotty Upshaw, and Paul Brown. But I want to get your thoughts on Fraser Minten, Mats Lindgren, and Matthew Seminoff. Start wherever you want and maybe give us your analysis of those guys.
I was talking to Sean Clouston, and one of the things that he talked about last year, the players that, they played in a bubble, they got an opportunity to play, but, part of their development wasn't the same. And that this year, this was in January, we were doing a game on TSN in Vancouver, and I was talking to Sean, and Sean said, he goes, they're really only coming to the completion of their first year in junior hockey. And he said there's a lot of growth ahead for them. And they've gone through some new experiences this year. And, the emphasis on patience in terms of, hey, with him as a coach, helping the players understand, with the evaluation of players and understanding where they're at. I think it's a really important thing to take into consideration when you consider what they've gone through. And they're good young players. So I'll start with Mats Lindgren, whose father obviously was a first-round draft pick by the Winnipeg Jets years ago. Talk about finding your roots, I just talked about Steven. Here's Mats from Sweden, ends up over in Canada, finds his way. Now here's his son, a real good prospect playing in Kamloops. It really is fascinating. But I would say about Mats, just a really good, effective defenseman. Just somebody that's smart, somebody that skates well. If you're a forward and that the puck is on Mats Lindgren's stick, you sit to yourself and go, I'm going to get the puck clean. I better get open, and I'm going to be able to take advantage of it instead of having to chase the puck down or, try to corral a bad pass. And, you think about where Mats is at as a defenseman, so ostensibly just entering the second season if we look at games played, but a really good prospect for the NHL draft. And to me, there's no question that he's going to be an NHL player. Mm-hmm. You move to Fraser Minten. He didn't get a real chance to play. He's a little bit more raw in terms of physical maturity, but a competitor. He's smart. One of the big things you have to look at with a player like him is how much more can he improve just with time. With physical maturity, you start to project and say, okay, here's where he can get. But, you look at centermen like him. Brandon Hagel, was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres. They didn't sign him. He ended up in Chicago. Now he just becomes a big part of a trade with the Tampa Bay Lightning, 20-plus goals in the NHL. Fraser Minten might be that type of a player. And then you finish with Matt Seminoff, a little bit older, but he missed a year ostensibly by not having a great opportunity to play last year. Really impressed with, how he's continuously just taking his game up a notch. And I think that's come from confidence. It's one thing to have the skills to be able to produce offensively, but once you start to, build on that confidence, it's like a vicious circle. It's one thing that I think I can do it, to say I know I can do it, to I will do this shift in, shift out. I'm seeing that transition with Matt from I think I can to I know I can to I will in his game. And he's a smart player that can play with skilled players. And, I don't see him as a top-line player, but when you can add offense into that second-line grouping, we use the term middle six forward now, and you can provide offense, you become a really valuable player. And I think Matt Seminoff has a lot of potential to be exactly that type of player.
I want to ask you a question about the 2023 Memorial Cup. I've been poking around on this story. Tom Gillardy, always truculent, entertaining. He's confirmed that Kamloops will bid on the 2023 Memorial Cup. I texted Bruce Hamilton. He was very coy, but we're pretty sure. We know Kelowna is going to bid on the 2023 Memorial Cup, we're pretty sure. I'm wondering, I heard Seattle, someone told me check in on Seattle. I called the president, he didn't get back to me. I talked to somebody else, they said, I don't think the league wants to go to the States. But I want to know, are you hearing anything about the CHL and where they might want to go with the 2023 Memorial Cup?
I haven't heard anything. Obviously, the Western Hockey League is going to host, right? So we can narrow it down geographically to the Western Hockey League. You look at Tom and you look at Bruce, Seattle with the new NHL franchise. I know that there's been some rumblings about Seattle potentially when the USA has the opportunity to host the World Junior, that maybe that would be something that they would consider doing. Another big part of this, too, is you look at the team, and as a host team, you want a good host team. I think just as importantly, you don't want to, I understand it, but you don't want a host team having to kind of load up just to be in the tournament and be competitive and at the expense of becoming a team that falls to the bottom of the standings in the years following it. I don't think that's an ideal situation. So when I look at the Kamloops Blazers, I see a team that's set up for success this year. I think they're set up for, I'm not talking about part-time success. I'm talking about ultimate success, competing for a Western Hockey League championship. We know they're in the mix this year. There's no question about it. And I don't think there's any question they'll be in the mix next year. So I think that factors in because there's a certainty to the team that will get the automatic bid into the Memorial Cup. And again, I also consider that, Tom Gagliardi, is forceful. Bruce Hamilton's forceful too. And, you got Russ Farwell, who's been involved with junior hockey forever. So I would see a really good competitive battle for the bid. And I'm not going to put my stamp on one or the other, but, why not just invoke the ownership group of the Kamloops Blazers, with Mark Recchi, Daryl Sador, Shane Doan, and Joel McGinley, and get them lobbying for you. I like their chances if you get their weight, so to speak, behind the bid.
We've only got two more questions. You've already been generous with your time. Chris, you got one for Craig?
At the end, I can do it.
At the end.
Yep.
This is more of a compliment than a question. I'll lead with that. But Tim O'Donovan, he's the assistant GM out here now in Kamloops, and he said that you've been on a few Hockey Canada trips together. I think at the U18s somewhere in Europe. He said you're always generous with your time, even when he was just a low-level video guy. Why are you like that? And how cool are those trips where you get to go overseas and bond with people in the hockey world and make those connections?
Ray Ferraro and I talk about this all the time at the World Junior. We just love being in these round tables, talking hockey with the people from the different countries. And it really does become wonderful. Now, as it relates to Tim, I don't think there's low-level people in hockey. I think there's people that are important in everything they do. A team doesn't function just because of the high level. It functions because of the contributions of everybody. And, you got people that want to advance and people that are very interested in being part of a success, not only individually, but collectively. And I got all the time in the world for that. I will never, ever not be part of that. And I gave you the story about going down to Dallas. Like I said, when we looked around that dressing room in 1999, we looked at people that loved the Dallas Stars, became really entrenched in all parts of the hockey, and yet when we went down there, they were just nail fights. And there's always opportunity for growth.
Yeah, speaking of teamwork, you were on the team that drafted Iginla back in '95, so that's interesting. Final question, I'll leave it to you. TSN, the analysts had a lot of fun when you had your pickleball accident and it was a ha whatever. But I have a game today. I've fallen in love with that sport. I thought it was goofy when I heard about it, but it's a serious sport. Marty here's a tennis snob. He doesn't even grace us with his presence. So tell Marty why pickleball is a good sport.
Well, number one, like you can have more people on the court when you play doubles, because you have on the tennis court, Marty, what you have is on both sides of the net, you can have 4 people. Well, that's 8 people playing on one court. So, just from that respect, I will say this to you: don't turn your nose up at it. Try it, because I play with a lot of people that play tennis and love tennis, and when they start to play pickleball, they start to realize, wow, this is a lot of fun as well. Marty, I would encourage you to try it. I will tell you this, though, okay? Yeah. It's not for the faint-hearted, okay? And as my pickleball injury revealed, okay, you need character and you need the ability to withstand pain to be on that court. Because when you're ready to spill blood on the pickleball court, you know how tough you are.
You need truculence. First
of
all, Craig, I have tried it. I came out. I whipped his ass. And I'd whip his ass in tennis and pickleball. And I'd take you on in pickleball, too. You'd be injured again probably by the time you're done with it.
When you're at Kamloops, we got to play pickleball.
Okay, and when I come to Kamloops, I'm going to look you guys up. We'll play. I got to tell you the story, though, really quickly about the injury.
Yeah.
So we were playing, and Christine, who was on the other team, was an NCAA tennis player. Magnificent hands, just unbelievable hands, and that net hands. Mm-hmm. And Marty, you know what I'm talking about net hands.
Absolutely.
That ability and deception in her hands. And when she got me spun around, and as I tried to make a valiant attempt to get the ball, I stumbled and fell because I had no chance. So I'm blaming Christine for the fact that I ended up falling. And she's a brilliant tennis player, but the tennis skills translate to the pickleball court. So I'm not surprised, Marty, that you schooled Chris.
Okay, thanks for your time. When you come out here, it's a date. We're going to do some pickleball and some tennis, and we'll may the best man win.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot, Craig. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
Cheers. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great guy, eh? I mean, he's like he is. You see him on TV. Yeah. You see him on TV, you think, this guy's a nice guy. He's a cool guy. He knows so much. He's so passionate about what he does.
Yeah.
It comes out.
Okay, he's nobody's puppet, Craig Button, but he does pull the strings, just like Jenna Kansky does. Let's meet her now in the title of Hastings. First, Wallace and Eagles, Mom Murray.
Oh, yeah. Jessica Wallace, our reporter, she's up for 2 Mom Murray Awards. Those are the Journalism Awards for BC and the Yukon Community Papers. She's up for 2 awards, one on the TNRD spending scandal for investigative reporting, and up for a business award for a story she did on the complexity of turning hotels and motels into housing. And Dave Eagles is up for an award for a portrait photo of a front page photo of a yoga instructor. It's a nice photo.
Your headline, you're very proud of it.
Na must pay.
Na must pay.
Because they had to pay to use the park, so na must pay instead of namaste.
Dave, the Slenderhawk Eagles.
May 14th, we find out there's a first in-person gala in 2 years in Richmond at the River Rock Casino. So hopefully it's a fun time. Regardless if you win, it's a great time.
Okay, Jenna Kansky right here. Grade 7 student, she's 12 years old. She made this mascot right here. That is Juniper the Jaguar. I went out there to meet both of them. And their team just so happened to go undefeated this year, basketball team. They won the city Tier 1 girls basketball title. I also found out that she's big into puppetry. And that's how she kind of got into making the mascot. And so she took me down into her workshop and her lair to show me the puppets. It also turned out randomly that the day we met just so happened to be
World
Puppetry Day. I had no idea.
Crazy. And what's her it's called Puppet Corner?
Puppet Corner.
Yeah.
Puppet Corner. So let's go down to meet Jenna at the school and then to Puppet Corner in this clip right here.
Well, one of my teachers said, hey, you should make a mascot for the school. And I was like, oh, that's funny. And then I ended up making one.
So tell me about Juniper. Am I safe right now? Is it going to swat me? Animal control have to come?
He's very friendly and a little bit on the wider side. He definitely isn't exercising as much, but he's kind of just goofy and just likes getting people pumped up and all that stuff. Some things that you can do is clap or do that with your hands. It gets them all pumped up, jump up and down, thumbs up, and whatever stuff you can do without the head falling off.
Does Juniper interact with the other team's mascots?
Yeah. Yes. When the other team's mascot walked in, they were doing a little fake fist fight thing and eyeing each other up, but yeah, so that was pretty fun.
You're obviously very talented. How did you make this?
So the body is chicken wire, and I formed it into the shape. And then the head's foam. The arms are just like an old Juniper Ridge sweater that I had.
Were you worried that your classmates might tease you? I mean, it's not something that everybody does.
Yes, because there's a thing called a furry which isn't, I guess, a bad thing, that some people will identify as an animal. And I am not a furry. I just like to create stuff for fun. And I was afraid that some of the classmates, because a few of them do call names like that, but a few of them call names, but not all of them. Some people just think it's really cool.
Does Juniper make any noises ever? Like any growl or any kind of cat noises?
Sometimes, but not often.
Oh, I heard something there.
There we go. Jags on 2. 1, 2, Jags! We are in my crafty corner or puppet corner.
It just floors me really because she is an amazing talent.
My mom has some friends who saw some of the other videos that I have made, and then they were like, oh, can you make something that looks like us? So I made 3 that look like them, and they thought that was very funny.
The 3 that she made are all teachers, and of course teachers, one of them said, at my funeral he's speaking my eulogy, because that's how much they really love them.
So Spike, do you get along with all of your other puppet friends up there?
Yep, everyone except for this guy.
Uh-oh.
He just stares at me. It's scary.
Benny's a surfer?
Yeah, man, yeah. His voice just sounded so like this, man, yeah. But yeah, at the beginning, I was a bit more nervous, and now I'm kind of getting more used to it because I realize that a lot of people think it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then,
well, it is. It's very, very cool. I think actually there's a dragon up there. I've been waiting to see that one. Can you bring that one down?
He is just incredible. It is amazing what she can do. As I said, throughout the whole year in different projects, she would bring them in, and all the kids were so incredible, supportive, and just they were all like, wow, are you really, you can make these? They kind of became a part of her puppets kind of became part of the class, she would bring them in and show them and throughout the year, and I think that also helped her be more confident in continuing.
No, I know he.
Oh, hello. Oh, he's probably got a lower voice.
He does.
Yes.
I call him morose as a word, so get that in your mind. You can change his voice. He's Irish, so you can do that if you want.
It's a car accident. The voice box is damaged.
Hi.
I've been doing a lot of smoking lately.
Oh, I've been eating a lot of carrots lately. You have glasses, huh?
Yes, I do. They get fogged up when I have my cigarettes, though. It's not very good.
Yeah.
I thought you told me that I smoked too much.
Oh, not that much, but
Well, thank you very much for showing me around today.
Yep.
I appreciate it. I gotta go get back to my cigarettes now.
all right.
Okay.
Any thoughts on this, Jenna, before we talk about the Blazers?
Well, I think that's just a great story. I was tweeting it and Facebooking it and Instagramming it because it's a story you want to read amidst the doom and gloom we talk about. You need a lift, you need a light stories, but it's an important story because it shows you that the creativity kids have, especially during the pandemic, and her passion, and it's so unique.
Well, it came out of the pandemic too, and her mom was jacked that she wasn't on her phone, glued to her phone the whole time. She took up this hobby. She learned from a guy in New York, Adam Krutinger, I think.
Yeah, she's wearing his sweatshirt there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting some good press from this, and just went to town, and now she's talking about maybe a career, maybe getting it somehow.
It's a very cool
making
story.
a career
Very
too.
neat story. Yeah, good job.
Okay, let's wrap the show here. Blazers Rockets. That's Montana Onyebuchi, so a few years back. That's Chris Millette right there. He's now the head coach of the Rockets, and there's some good acrimony going on right now between these two teams. Last game got heated at the end. Chris Millette going at it with Chris Murray verbally, who he would not want to go at with fisticuffs.
Or take out his fire hose and just take him out.
He's also a tough guy, Chris Murray.
Tough guy,
so I talked to Chris this week, Millette, about it. He kind of tried to downplay it, but you could hear the rivalry's boiling again. He didn't like the fact, you could tell, about who the Blazers had on the ice at the end of that game. And Sean Clouston downplayed it, but talked about how he let Chris Murray handle it. So big rivalry weekend coming up here. Their 14-game series ends with 2 games.
This is 6 in a row they're playing, right?
6 in a row.
This is going to happen when it's 6. It's like a playoff series, basically. Yeah.
I think it's great for them to get this right before the playoffs. It's a primer.
If they meet in the playoffs too, it'd be crazy.
Yeah. So tonight, Friday, 7 o'clock at Sandman Center. Tomorrow, 7:05 p.m., Prospera Place in Kelowna. That's the end of the series. And the Blazers can clinch their 3rd straight BC title with 2 wins.
With 2 wins,
this weekend.
and Kelowna can clinch the series with a win.
Yeah. 5 straight wins for the Blazers over the Rockets, trying to make it 6 in a row. Tonight, okay, let's wrap the show. Final thoughts.
Good to see Craig Button. Can't wait to play pickleball with him when he comes to town. We'll visit you at the tennis courts and your exalted throne there. But no, it's good. Good to hear Mike Miltimore is going to give a guitar to someone if they can find that damn chain of office.
Mike, any final thoughts? I think Priscilla, somebody or other, a famous singer, has one of your guitars too?
Priscilla Block, who is just exploding onto the scene in Nashville. She was up for an American Country Music Award, didn't get it, but she's now been nominated for a Country Music Television Award. She loves our guitar. She's been playing on it. We built her a Sparkle guitar, I think I showed you a few weeks ago.
That's a super nice looking guitar.
And she just posted on Instagram how much she loves it, and that's getting us lots of love on the internet.
Yeah. New Leaf Produce Market, we can't do it without you. Got spaghetti squash here, blood orange over there, Chris.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yep.
McDonald's, again, share this episode. 2 Big Macs up for grabs. Oh, Herman's way over there. I better get him. Don't want to leave him out today. Let's let him go. Anyway, we've been live also on tape from the bowels of Lee's Music here for Chris Foulds. I'm Marty Hastings, and we'll see you last week.